Since we developers don't already have enough to do, let me add to your workload with this list of books that no self-respecting software engineer should be without. Let's go. I have 5 books for you today that every active and aspiring software engineer should read. For the most part, these books will be valuable to you regardless of what your experience level is, and each of them can be invaluable for opening your eyes to see what other professionals are doing and how to set your own expectations for yourself and others. Number 5, Cracking the Coding Interview, 189 Programming Questions and Solutions, 6th edition, written by Gail Lakeman McDowell. This book is practically famous as a guidebook to getting hired. Most developers, especially CS grads, are going to get a lot from this book. It's like a continuing education. The self-taught and bootcamp grads will also get something, but it'll be different. Most of the content is built on a good CS foundation, but that doesn't make this book less valuable or less worth it. Some of it will be over your head if you don't have that CS background, but you'll actually learn more than the CS grads, if that makes sense. It's like a catch-up manual for the expectations of the job market, especially FANG. This book is required reading if you are applying for a top-tier software or services company like a FANG or Microsoft. It's sad that these types of interviews are becoming the norm, and they're actually starting to spill over into the rest of the industry out of the FANGs and Microsofts. The coding interviews are just going out of style. Programmers don't have to write code anymore, I guess, and can instead just, design their software on whiteboards with thoughts and be okay. All the best places I've ever worked have required me to write code in interviews. And I do think that the FANGs and Microsoft to have those types of interviews, it does make sense. But for the most part, companies, like normal companies, they don't even have the competency to rate what a good answer would be on those types of interviews. This book really just gives a cursory glance at the 189 problems and solutions. It's not in depth. It gives you a foundation so you can finish building it out if you want to. You really need to find a better, more in-depth guide of algorithms and data structures if you are going to go for one of those interviews. I think there's a real opportunity cost to this one. If you don't read it, everybody else is. It's going to cost you. It places you at a disadvantage. For $40 you get this book and can earn you thousands on your next salary. One of the things that this book really shines on, though, is the way that it gives you really good info on the interview process. In prepping for interviews, it takes a behind-the-scenes look at some of the top-tier company interviewing processes and the basic behavioral questions. You can find all those elsewhere, but the fact that it's in this book is a plus too. Number 4, Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software. This book is the granddaddy of all design patterns books. It spoke about design patterns before everyone and their brother and sister knew what design patterns were. This book is commonly known as Gang of Four or GOF because of the 4 authors, Gama, Helm, Johnson, and Vlizides. I believe that's the way you say the name. I had to choose between this book and the Head First Design Patterns book. I chose this one because, like I said, this is the de facto standard for design patterns. Regardless of language, it's the standard for a reason. It has a lot of detail for each of the design patterns. It's typically like 10 to 20 pages for each one. And a lot of those, you get a pretty good understanding after just a couple of pages. And it's weird, but this book seems to be more relevant as time goes on instead of less relevant. It really is outstanding. For each of the patterns, it tells you what it does, what it's used for, what it's good for, how to implement it, the different components of an implementation, and even what the side effects are of an implementation. The code is starting to show some age, but if you are using a programming language like Java, Python, C#, anything popular, you'll easily be able to find these design patterns implemented in your own language if you just search for it. Number 3, Code, the Hidden Language of Computer Hardware and Software, 2nd edition. This was written by Charles Petzold. This guy is practically famous. He wrote the programming Windows books from the 90s, I think, and the 2000s. This book is a historical look at software and computers evolving to the modern machines. It covers everything from Morse code to modern computers, electricity, electrical circuits, communication. And if you really want to understand how computers work and how computers and software work together, this book is just crazy good. This book is extremely detailed, but it's not boring. I don't think it's for everybody. If you're naturally curious, you'll love this book. And I think you can use this book to build an actual working computer. I've not done it, but I've heard of other people doing it. This book is just extremely valuable to developers without a computer science background because you didn't get a lot of that base information about how computers work, computer hardware. The book is written in like a conversational style. I really like it. It's a literal treasure trove of background information, trivia, facts. It's like an associate's of computer science degree in a single book. This is just your friendly reminder to like and subscribe. We post a new video on computer science, software engineering, software architecture every other Sunday. Number 2, The Pragmatic Programmer, Your Journey to Mastery, 20th Anniversary Edition, written by David Thomas and Andrew Hunt. I think at the core, this book is a book about software craftsmanship, how to develop software correctly. The book is pretty strongly opinionated. Not all the advice is going to work for you. The book is written about, this is the way the authors do it, and they think you should do it this way as well. Most of the advice is pretty solid, and you should read it and adapt what makes sense for you. The book is organized into 53 different topics, and they range from the evils of duplication, to breaking temporal coupling, to working together, and version control. And they spread those 53 points or 53 topics across 9 different categories. Many of the topics might be more than a junior developer needs, but keep the book on your bookshelf, crack it open when you need it. It's well worth the purchase. No matter where you're at in your career, you should be able to get a few things or even a lot of things out of this book. It approaches software development like the title says. It's sensible and realistic. I think it's pretty obvious the authors are developers and they've had long careers doing what we're doing, and most of their advice really is pragmatic. I think a lot of these types of books are written by people who have forgotten how to develop software or feel like it's still 20 years ago and software development's kind of moved on without them, but not these guys. These guys are still in the trenches and it's pretty obvious. Number 1, Code Complete 2, 2nd edition. A Practical Handbook of Software Construction, written by Steve McConnell. The original was released about 30 years ago, and there was really no other book like it, in my opinion, for at least a good decade, maybe longer. It really opened my eyes that writing software was a career, and that you could create actually beautiful software that was durable and useful and dependable and simple, and that there was actually beauty in that simplicity. It's like a cabinet maker or fine furniture maker. There's furniture that was made from wood in the world that was made 300 years ago. That's true craftsmanship. Still functional, still beautiful as the day it was made, but still around. This book, like The Pragmatic Programmer, is about software craftsmanship, but I think that this one's far less opinionated. It really wants you to be deliberate in determining your processes so that you can build software that's, high quality and software that can be easily maintained. That's really the only input you have when you're determining your software quality. You can try really hard to create high quality software, but if you have crap processes, the chances that you do ship quality software, they aren't great. The good practices, they lead to good code. Testing, refactoring, defensive programming, standards, documentation. All of these are practices that are good to have, and they all lead to good quality code. The book really pushes for readable code. Readable code is the best code. You forego elegance in favor of simplicity. I say this over and over, but I think this was the first book that really gave me that thought, that it was nice to see really elegant code, but it was nice to maintain simple code. The book really pushes you to be diligent in your pursuit of improvement, consciously striving to be better, and you will be better. You're not going to wake up tomorrow great, but you'll be better than you were today. If that's what you're pursuing, just do it day after day. and it really pushes you to attack and defeat complexity. They really push that this is the most important technical problem that you can solve. So those are the 5 books that I would recommend. Do you have a favorite that wasn't listed? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy this one about why you should be using a coding standard. Until next time, keep coding.